joy to introduce to you Malika Grasshoff. She's also an old friend of mine since many years. She is historian, author and indigenous ethnologist of Kabyle lineage, Berber lineage. She grew up in a Kabylian village in Algeria until she was 17. Her research is permeated by her personal experience and offers much previously unpublished material about the roots and myths of a society at the brink of extinction, where women and mothers play central roles. Two of her books describe the magical world of the Kabyle women and were published in France under the pseudonym Makila. Both books are translated into German and lately also into English. Welcome, Malika.
Alors, comme on dit, good morning, non, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good morning. Est-ce qu'on m'entend? Oui. Oui, on m'entend. Alors, good morning, everybody. I want to say to Geneviève, merci Geneviève, merci et merci Heide. And to honor your language, I want to speak English, but my English is very bad. I try it. My name is Malika Grasshoff. My pseudonym is Makila. The title, excuse me, je vais essayer de mettre. Comment on fait? On appuie. It's not. Excuse me. Ça marche pas. The title of my contribution, my name is Malika Grasshoff, my pseudonym Makila. The title of my contribution is the central position of women in the life of the Berbers of Northern Africa, exemplified by the Kabyle. I will speak about the Kabylians or the Kabyle, but I have decided from now on to only use the term Kabyle instead of Kabylian. And now I will to tell you about the Kabyle women and to expose their specific way of life. Excuse me. Comment on fait? Ouais, c'est ça. And now I would like to tell you about the Kabyle women, and to expose their specific way of life. This life is magic because the women in the traditional Kabylia understood themselves as a cosmic member of the earth. According to my research, this life follows a cyclical rhythm which is observed in the 4-season cycle. Therefore, today the title of my contribution is also the 4-seasons life cycle of Kabyle women. So I was born in Kabylia and I was able to observe how people preserved many of their traditions. This happened in spite of the conversion to Christianity during the Roman Empire and to Islam after the arrival of the Arabs. Example are the veneration of saints, belief in the magic and power of the earth, the sun, the moon, springs, and the rain. As a young girl, I have already learned about the secret code of women displayed on hand-painted ornamentation on pottery and on the walls of the Kabyle houses. I took an extended initiation by old women potters in the 80s to actually enable me to decipher this symbol, these magical symbols that can only be truly appreciated by women because they relate directly to femininity and maternity. The Kabyles are an ethnic subgroup of the Berber people, today still living in Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. The three most important groups of the Berbers in Algeria are the Shawiya, who live a semi-nomadic lifestyle, the Tuareg, we know that, the Tuareg, famous the world over as a people of the desert, and the Kabyles, who are sedentary. Unfortunately, the research of the Kabyles people developed by the French ethnology and historiography is based on the assessment factors of a Western civilization. It is therefore expedient to describe some of the fundamental traits of this traditional culture, since without this knowledge, one cannot understand the central focus of the position of women in this tradition. You understand? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Is the following. I would like to describe the three main features of the Kabyle tradition. These 3 points, which characterize this kind of society around women and their femininity, are the spoken word as carrier of cultural meaning, the ancestral and family veneration, and in the end, the cultivation of the earth with a ritualized practice. First point, the spoken word as carrier of cultural meaning. It's important to know that the Kabyles speak a Berber dialect, a language without script. Since eternity, knowledge has been passed on orally from parent to child. The values, conventions, and customs of the rural clan were passed on in the form of legends and myths, only in spoken word form. It is very interesting to note that the word Takmelit means woman as well as language, the Kabyle language. In fact, in reality, it is the mothers who teach their children starting at birth to speak this language, and thanks to the mothers, the communication in the villages is still Kabyle, in spite of the fact that at first French and since 1962 Arabic has been the language taught at school. The Kabyles have never formed a nation state. The cultural continuation found expression only via oral tradition. Therefore, the teachings, knowledge, and words of the elders were respected because they are living books and commanded high regard. The spoken word as a carrier of cultural meaning, handed down from the elders to their descendants, leads us to the second point. It means ancestral and family veneration. In traditional Kabyle society, the distribution of the population in the country was a mosaic of small village communities. These villages are politically, legally, economically, and socially free and independent. Each village resembles a small republic governed by the elders. How people are related to each other, it's regulated by endogamy, which allows marriage only mostly in the same village community. In this way, social relationships are based on blood ties and affiliation to the mother and to the commonly shared land. It's okay? Vous comprenez? No. In every aspect, Kabyle experiencing their social identity as being part of the group extended to the village. Nobody feels isolated. Their responsibility is focused on the family and a parent among the living, but also exists in reference to the ancestors. One talks of the religion of the ancestors. Even Islam could not find entry into Kabyle society without incorporating ancestral veneration. The religious and spiritual dimension in the woman's life was her everyday experience in close contact with nature, and this will be developed in the following third point. The third point is the cultivation of the earth and the ritualized practice. Traditional Kabylia is a typical example for a closed society based on a subsistence economy. Within the village boundaries, the community lives off the fruits of their land. Bartering was a mode of business to exchange products. As an oral culture, they did not have clocks or calendars. They are looked at themselves as an inherent part of the macrocosm, though not separated from nature. In the face of the Kabylia, protective guardians endowed with invisible life inhabit the earth. Therefore, the cultivation of the earth is carried out in accordance with the seasonal cycles, so as not to disturb the harvest and the natural development. According to a traditional birth ritual, which was passed from mothers to daughters, the women make their subsistence activities in the same way, in a cyclical way. There is no division of labor, but the wholeness of a chronological steps following one after the other and connected by rituals to the cycle of the moon and of the sun. After these three main features around traditional society now, the ritualized life of women of Kabylia. During research, I have to realize how the Western scientific viewpoint creates difficulties in understanding the ritualized lifestyle of Kabyle women. Therefore, I developed a new approach called cyclical method or the four-phase method. This method describes all the women activities consistent with the 4 seasons of the year. One result which completely surprised even me was the fact that all ritualized activities, be it the molding of a piece of pottery, the preparation of food, or the production of a garment, closely follow the rules in the espousal, the copulation between a man and a woman. Comment? Alors, one result which completely surprised even me was the fact that all ritualized activities, be it the molding of a piece of pottery, the preparation of food, or the production of a garment, closely follow the rules of the espousal, the copulation between a man and a woman. I described that in my first book. Alors, with the help of the 4-phase method, I want also to describe the ritualized life of a Kabyle woman in 4 steps. The first one is the childhood, the second the pregnant woman, the third one is the mother, and the 4th step is the older woman or the crowd. Is okay? Each part is followed by a new one thanks to a rite, which will be pointed down in the description below. We'll see that the following description reveals a cyclical development because the beginning of human life equals its ending with the death. The first step, the childhood begins with the birthing rites. We see that birth in Kabylia is woman's domain. As in many other cultures, Kabyle society prohibits men being present during childbirth, and the father and all the men withdraw to the village. The secrets surrounding the birth process are reserved for women alone, for the beginning of a new life is something only mothers can share together. About this, Mercier Eliade, a man, not a woman, a man, 1972, in one of his books, Le Sacré le Profane, said in the following, quote, "The secret of child delivery, the discovery by the woman that she is creatress of life, is a religious experience which cannot be translated into the vocabulary of male experience." End of quote. Wow. Men cannot be present during childbirth, even today in Kabylia. That's why an older woman of my kinship group was shocked when she heard that men, father-to-be, in Europe are frequently present during delivery. She gave me this explanation. You, who think yourself to be so liberated in your man, why do you have to prove to men that life emanates from you? And that we are the mothers of their sons. Giving birth to daughters is self-evident, but we are also the mothers of all the sons and of all the men. According to traditional views, children do not belong to the parents, but to the clan or kinship group. The birth of a child affects the whole village and cannot be separated from other births. In fact, the occurrence of several births together in a village within 1 month is regarded a bad omen. It is said the moon connected them. The mother then resorts to different rituals. For example, in order to revoke the moon binding, she has to go out on the 2nd or 3rd day after nightfall to a meeting with the new moon. And there she will ask the luminary to undo the ill situation. This ritual reveals a close connection between birthing rites and lunar powers. Later, I will report what the birth rites are connected with the moon in the magical 40 days after delivery. In traditional society, the purpose of life is focused on the family and its continuation. Without marriage, no new social groups come into being. According to this thought, the search for a bride is a crucial event. About the marriage, the thesis from the anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss is very well known. It explains that women do not occupy the same place or the same status as men because the men exchange the woman and not the other way around. The way marriages are arranged among the Kabyle and the Berber shows a different picture. In Kabyle society, the mothers choose their daughters-in-law. Begalid Aitali, a Kabyle man, wrote at the beginning of the last century, quote, "It is unbelievable, but in Kabylia, women look for, choose, and find a wife. A man may even go so far as to send out a strange woman he trusts, for it is always women men turn to in these decisions. The Kabyle men have to take the woman their mother chose for them. The search for the bride is starting with the birth of the son. When the bride is found, the mother informs the father. We see that the Kabyle wedding is never a private affair between the future spouses. In fact, there is no consent needed from them. Marriage was only the concern of the whole kinship group and a commitment by one's word of honor. The wedding in Kabylia is only a family matter, no church or temple, nor is the official representation of any religion needed. The childhood ends with the wedding ceremonies, but the wedding rituals do not refer to the separation of the spouses from their respective families. This rite celebrates the changeover to their new responsibility, which is understood as a continuation of life's legacy passed on by the ancestors. When the woman is fertilized by the man through sexual union, she is likened to the earth. And finally, as a pregnant woman, she transforms into the earth mother of human being. And now we see the second part of the pregnant woman as the form giver or the shaping of the child. All native peoples equate woman mother with the earth. The cultivation of the earth is accompanied by rituals similar to those that apply to pregnant women. Therefore, during harvesting season, when a woman walks for the first time into her flourishing garden, she has to do a rite. She opens her bed in reverence and silence, as she would do before giving birth. It is very important that the woman not hinder the growth of the plants. A woman is always compared to a garden with its swelling fruit, and the pregnant woman is seen as a portrait of the child in her womb. One example, during her pregnancy, a Kabyle woman is not allowed to work the soil, as she would be shaping the soil with her work. In so doing, she would also form the infant in her womb. During pregnancy, she will also avoid whitewashing, plastering, or decorating with the walls of the house or making pottery. These activities, working the earth, could also have an adverse effect on her and her shaped earth. This can influence, has an influence of it. About the ritual of, it's okay? About the rituals of delivery. The Kabyle woman delivers in a squatting position to put the infant directly down on the ground. This birthing process, position, can be found the world over. This ritual is woman's domain in Kabyle, and it is experienced in the community of older mothers. The act of birth giving within the female community is fundamental, as Getty understood it. Quote, "This mystery, handed down from the ancestors, is creating true community among all female members of a society, which is the foundation of the life of the society." End of quote. Birth giving in Kabyle is experienced as a collective occasion, but it means much more. Motherhood of the Kabyle woman spreads magically over the whole natural environment and influences the fertility of the fields and the domestic animals. For example, one example only. During the whole pregnancy, the fire must remain within the house. This rule is also observed at the birth of a calf, at weddings, and during the autumn fieldwork. The next and third phase of my description after the rites of delivery is the mother and her children. Among the motherhood rituals, the most important one is the 40 days after delivery. After the birth giving, the mother and also the child are obliged to adhere to a strict resting time of 40 days, exactly 39.9. 39.9. This time is considered to be the most dangerous time for a mother. Often the woman will spend this time in her mother's house, for her mother will instruct her in all she needs to know. This is why the birth of a daughter is highly valued. I have searched long for the meaning of these magical 40 days, which are observed after delivery and after the death of a person. The elderly wise woman gave me the following explanation. The secret of this magical 40 days is that the life of human being is connected with the power forces of the moon. I will now explain, so I will explain the meaning of these 40 days. One must know that the lunar phases, upper rains, waxing and waning, and disappearance of the moon is followed by the reappearance of the same after 3 big dark nights. Like the moon, during the 3 days following the birth, neither the child nor its mother are allowed to leave the bed of the house. It is prohibited to visit her for 3 nights. Mother and child then hold an additional resting period in the house for 1 week. During this time of 7 nights, they can only have visitors from the immediate family. After these 10 days of isolation, the woman is allowed to cross over the threshold of the house, but she will do this after she has observed a number of medical rituals which protect her from harm. The mother will furthermore wait another 28 nights, a moon month, before leaving the compound of the family. Only then is she able to show carefully the child off to the rest of the village. The time of 38 is finally finished after the woman has ritually visited a well of a sacred place. After these 39 days, on the 40th day, the mother will resume a normal life again. In other religions, 40 days also have significance. The Israelis keep to the tradition of 40 days in most cases. Catholics still celebrate Candle Mass on the 2nd of February. This festival reminds us of the cleansing of the Virgin Mary, 40 days after Christmas. In Kabylia, birth is not a ritual of delivery, not a ritual of separation, but a ritual of uniting the mother with the child and with the powers of the moon. About the motherhood, it is essential to know that in traditional Catholic society, the most common alliance was the marriage between cousins, which is not viewed as incestuous. However, marriage is prohibited in the case of 2 children who have emerged from the same womb or been suckled by the same breast. The bond created by breastfeeding is indeed as strong as a blood bond. The symbolic gesture of offering a breast alone constitutes for the Kabyle an adoption right, which carries with it a prohibition to marry as a formal marriage. The children of the same mother but by different fathers are seen as full-fledged brothers and sisters, and like by the Tuareg, when we speak about one's own brothers, we say Aithma, that means the sons of my mother. And when we speak about sisters, we say Isetma, that means the daughters coming from my mother's womb. If a Kabyle woman is attacked, it is firstly the sons of her mother, her brothers, who stand up to defend her, or not her husband or father. The natural mother-child relationship is of such importance that losing one's mother is the worst tragedy which could happen. We say in Kabylia, I did not harm the one whose father I lost, but everything has been taken from me when I lost my mother. Yes, we come now to the last part, the fourth part about the elderly woman of the crown. In Kabyle society, the woman is the foundation of the house and the family, but her life is only complete when she becomes a grandmother. As I explained before, one of the most important tasks a mother can have is the search for a bride for her sons. It ensures the continuation of the family line through her descendants. When the first child gets married, the mother is called Tamar, Oda, the crone. In Kabyle language, this word expresses her very honorable position. Her role as mother to her grown-up children continues on until her death. She helps raise the children of her son and assists her daughter-in-law in her new role as mother. This is carried out to such a degree that gifts at the birth of a child are handed to the grandmother, not to the mother or father of the child. She's endowed the relationship between a daughter and a mother is of utmost importance. She's endowed with a special love. We say special love. The mother hands down all her knowledge to the daughter, the heiress of all the mother's wisdom. At the end of her life, the grandmother, called the crone, is viewed as magical. In her womb, she creates human beings who have been recipients of her nourishment and care. She turns into a weaver. We weave together the threads of life of the ancestors with those of the descendants. The crone is present at every fertility rite and directs all ritualistic medical work. She often becomes a midwife, a healer, and a shaman. In the evenings, she recounts the myths and fairy tales she had heard from her mother, thus passing on her mother's wisdom to her grandchildren. The grandmother does this until her death, when she returns to the earth. In fact, in Kabyle methodology, it is explained that human beings were born from the earth. The Kabyle believe the dead return to the belly of the earth. The funeral customs reveals that returning to the earth follows the same ritual as after the delivery of an infant. I will explain this. The body and any remains of the dead person have to be removed before the third day after death. During those 3 days, the soul of the deceased is hovering over the threshold of the house, of the door of the house. Then it sways out and returns after 40 days. The visit to the cemetery has to be conducted on the 3rd and 40th day. We find the same observance of these 40 days after delivery as well after death. In this way, human life takes on an eternal cyclical dimension because the end of the life is the same as the beginning. The funeral rites make clear that death is not preserved as the end of life, but as a cyclical renewal which is continually carried forward in the womb of the mothers. Yes, the end of my speech with a summary. From the cradle to the grave, the woman as mother is a protectress of life itself since the marriage, after the first phase as a young girl. During pregnancy is the second phase where she is the patroness of the child. Then, in the third phase, this mother turns into the nurturer of the human being, and finally, as a crone, she becomes the weaver of human bonds. These 4 parts together, childhood, pregnancy, motherhood, and the crone state, compose in reality a cyclically renewal. That's because birth and death are magically celebrated with the same ritual, the 40 days. In this way, human being state at the beginning as well as the end of life follows the rules of the motherhood and the femininity. the rituals of life that traditional women showed matriarchal structure of previous times. I described in my first book in a four-part model. C'est la fin. It's okay. I described in four-part model all the subsistent female activities which follow the cyclical rhythm of the four seasons. This cyclical ich glaube, ich habe zwei Minuten noch. These cyclical productions, the pottery making, the food preparation, and the weaving, are regarded as magical creation. And this is because every process of the Kabyle woman's work corresponds to the act of sexual and erotic union between one man and one woman. So we can say that the Kabyle woman feels she is not only a creatress of human life, but also a symbol of the creative power of every object she creates. This magical dimension about female power is clearly shown in the erotic symbols of the pottery, piece of weaving on the walls painting of the houses. These symbols are the topic of my second book. In previous years, it was common to view the life of a woman in 2 or 3 phases. But the great regard given to the mother cannot be fully grasped with these models, because they do not do not take into account the crucial phase of pregnancy. We forget that a pregnant woman is already mother since she forms her baby before giving life. She carries her baby in her womb, doesn't she? This phase, in vitro, is the unseen development of human being inside the womb, and it is normally not perceived as a crucial phase in motherhood that it is. If the beginning of human life is connected only with the birth after delivery, the time of motherhood is cutted and is respect only the visible phase after birth. Consequently, the starting of life after the delivery will be equal to the starting of fatherhood, and then producing a false equation. Celebrating a child's birthday would place the beginning of motherhood with that of fatherhood on the same level. In fact, this is patriarchal. It is essential to note that pregnancy is very important for re-establishing the basis for the forgotten roots of humankind. We erase the fact that every woman bears the human being's life and bears also the responsibility for preserving power of the life itself. We can learn from the Kabyle, perhaps, because every Kabyle is raised in deep reverence for her mother, and is in the awareness that all humankind owes its life to a woman. In conclusion, I would like to give you a saying from the Kabyle: the woman carries the life of the man in her womb, either husband, brother, or father, and the woman carries the life of the defender of her honor. Voilà. C'est l'intérieur d'une maison kabyle. C'est l'intérieur d'une maison kabyle dans la région des Mahatka. Et c'est rouge et blanc. That is the inside of a Kabyle house. It's like a person. C'est joli.
Thank you so much, Malika. Thank you so much.
Komm mit mir. Wenn Fragen kommen, kannst du antworten für mich. Na, bist du? Das ist nett. Du bist meine Übersetzerin. Ja.
We have not much time left for question and answers, 15 minutes. But I hope, yeah. Thank you, come here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a very ethnographically rich based presentation, all of you. I have one question for especially Helene and Malika. As you know, I am very interested in how we are going to find matriarchal studies in this beginning or now ongoing effort. And I was thinking about Heidi's definition at the beginning and was listening to your presentations. And I found that the two groups did not fit her definition, but then I began to think also that in fact there is a diarchic matriarchal well, I would call it patriarchate and matriarchate elements in both of these societies. And so I wonder, especially the notion of the cycle that you talked about, and of course the female-centeredness of the Tuareg. My question is, how would you fit this, the two of you, if you could answer it, how would you fit your studies into this field that we're calling matriarchal studies? I think it's a very important question because it may expand our view. Is the question clear?
Thank you very much, but I don't answer in English. I have my
Okay.
I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Who would like to answer?
Tu veux que je commence
Malika.
Oui. Du sagst jetzt mal, dass wir immer am Anfang sind. Ja?
We are at the beginning of something new.
C'est la première fois vraiment que j'ai le droit de
Oh, it's the first time that we're really exchanging the two groups, our views.
Il y a bestimmt viele Unterschiede zwischen Nomaden und sedentary.
There are a lot of differences between a nomadic people and a sedentary people.
Moi, ich kann cyclical sprechen, über das sedentary.
Yeah, I can talk about the cyclical life because we are a sedentary people. And we live with the cycle of the lunar cycle.
C'est différent, das ist ganz anders als den anderen, weil noch nicht alles beforscht.
Okay, it's very different with the nomadic people, and we haven't really done a lot of comparative research yet.
Aber mit der Zeit sehe ich, dass wir sehr viele gleiche Sachen sehen. Ich finde, dass wir finden immer Ähnlichkeiten.
But as we go on looking at both our systems, we're finding more and more similarities between them.
Und du sagst, ich kann nur für mich antworten, dass der Rahmen schon eine der wichtigste ist, damit wir uns überhaupt strukturieren.
Okay, she says, I can only answer for myself, for my situation, but Heide has given with her definition a framework in which the two groups, our two groups, can actually meet and interact.
Überall, also ganz egal was. Wir müssen Struktur haben, wo wir uns
We have to have a structure in which we can meet and can do comparative studies, and Heide is providing that structure with her definition.
Aber bei mir können wir sagen, dass eine Sache ist klar, dass ich sehr, sehr intensiv die relations, die relationships, les structures de parenté, Verwandtschafts, Also wahrscheinlich Linie, wie man heiratet, Namensgebung, wo und so. Das haben wir wirklich studiert und gemerkt, dass alles von der Mutter kommt.
When I did my research and my studies, the relational issues are very important, and how parents relate to children and how the siblings relate to each other, and then that is in the foreground of my research.
Und wenn sie sagt, das ist kein Matriarchal, das ist okay.
And if Heide then says this is not a matriarchy, then for me that's okay.
Ich habe so gelebt. Wo die Mutter was zu tun.
Yeah, but I lived in such a way that my mother was in the center and my mother was the deciding factor.
Für Peggy, ich will eine Geschichte erzählen.
I want to tell you a story, Peggy.
Peggy, Frau Jung. Ich mache bei der Kapitel, weil sie meine Sekretärin ist. Ich erzähle dir später.
I'll tell you personally.
So on my side, I try to answer to Peggy with my best English. In fact, one of the basic hypotheses of Heide about matriarchal is to say that it is an egalitarian society. And the second item is that it is a society that are sedentary. Not all, okay. But about the egalitarian factor, it does not work with Tuareg society. We can say it is a nomadic, basically nomadic society, and this society has two axes, one vertical and one horizontal. And the third principle of this society is the dynamism. It means that we have not a fixed hierarchy. We have flexible social positions. And it is why I think we have to be very accurate about this notion of hierarchy. It's maybe we have to do a nuance about this notion, because the manner how it is understood in Tuareg society is not the same as in our society. Hierarchy is very flexible, and it can be integrated in the matriarchal thinking. You see, if you see it like a position that is always moving. And it is why I have compared the position. This hierarchy is like the difference between the woman who is before the man, or the noble before the protégé, or the elder before the younger. It's the same type of balance. One is, and it is why we have to introduce also the notion of time. It's very important. Why? What is the difference between female and male? It is that the female was created the first one, and after the male. And it has implication in the everyday life. For example, to have a good, honorable attitude, the man has to mimic, how do you say? Mimic the woman attitude. You see, okay, I can explain after we have
C'est qu'il y a aussi le principe de la liberté.
There's also the principle of liberty,
Donc,
freedom.
selon les contrées, chacun va être différent de l'autre. Il y aura des systèmes, beaucoup de systèmes de matriarcal, matrimonial
Systems of matriarchal
et tout.
and matrimonials.
Pour marquer les différences, pour montrer qu'on
Differentiations.
voilà, qu'on fait de la recherche
And that's the reason why we make the research.
des systèmes. C'est pour cela que ça peut être différent chez elle par rapport à chez nous.
And that's the reason
etc.
why we have these varieties.
Chacun veut marquer son temps de sa manière, c'est ça qui compte.
And so it's important
Son
to
expérience
consider
personnelle.
the time in which we make our research.
All right, I would like to give also an answer, because it was a discussion about my suggestion of the deep structure of matriarchal society. I think we have very few necessary conditions to call a society a matriarchal one, and a lot of sufficient conditions in this definition. This means, I think what is necessary and cannot be omitted is that we find matrilineal. Even if we find matrilineal in such a society and it has no importance, and matrilineal is much more important, then matrilineal is valid. This was the situation with several societies and descriptions of societies we heard. The other necessary condition is that the vital goods, like houses and food, livelihood, are in the hands of women. Then we have a matriarchal society, and all the other conditions was very interesting with flexible hierarchy or agriculture or not agriculture. These are sufficient conditions and they can shift, and because they can shift, we have a big variety of matriarchal society. But necessary is that we have matrilinity and the goods in the hand of women. And I think the Tuareg society pretty well fits this definition, and also the Berber society, as Elaine and Malika have presented to her. So far, this deep structure which I presented to you is not a rigid frame. It's a proposition. Sufficient conditions give cases which are mostly found, but they are not rigid and not fixed. Only these two necessary conditions must be given, then we can speak about a matriarchal society. And I was fascinated to hear from each panel the big and great variety of societies. I'm occupied with this since many, many years, and I'm really fascinated how many varieties and how rich these different types of matriarchal societies are all over the world. But we have to have these necessary conditions to recognize them and to know we have here a matriarchal society or not. So I hope it could clarify the point here in this case. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm particularly interested in pottery, and could be extended to crafts that were traditionally women traditionally did pottery, and they did them through often the spiritual realm or the symbolic realm, so that not only was pot functional, but it also was a ritualistic or sacred object. So the question is, are these traditions still being carried out in modern times when they can use stainless steel and copper and not have pottery?
Okay, and the men do the same thing. The men also sell in the marketplace. But she just said that the magical, the scripts, the signs are not on the pots anymore.
Are not.
They're not. It's not on the pottery anymore. In earlier time, it was only done between the women, so the women did it for each other. There was no trading in this pottery. Okay, and each clan or each family had their own symbolic signs, because you didn't want to compete with the other women. You didn't want to buy the pottery. Okay, so she said, my mother said to me, we never buy something like that from a strange woman that we do not know, because we don't know their signs. So the signs are within the group or within the clan.
No, tout ce qui concerne le spirituel, je vais vous parler de ce qui est entre religions, avant la religion. Hein? On croit à beaucoup de choses. On croit que, par exemple, les arbres, hein? Chaque arbre représente quelque chose. Il y a des arbres avant la religion, il y a beaucoup de choses qui ont un sens.
Religions, there are a lot of things which have meanings.
Par exemple, il y a des arbres qu'on ne doit pas visiter la nuit.
For example, it said that we should visit a tree in the evening or in the night.
Il y a des arbres qui voyagent la nuit.
Or it said that there are some trees that travels in the night.
Il y a les étoiles de la séparation.
There's also stars of separation.
Il y a les étoiles aussi, on appelle les étoiles rebelles.
And there are rebelling stars, we call
Il y
them.
a aussi les étoiles qui représentent le caractère de la femme.
Or stars representing the character of a child.
Il y a beaucoup de choses de ce genre. Par exemple, dans la maison aussi,
And a lot of things, all these kind of symbols, for example, in the house.
la maison Touareg, elle a beaucoup de portes.
And the house of the Tuareg has a lot of doors.
Plus on est riche, plus il y a plus de portes. Plus on est riche,
The more you are rich, the more doors you've got.
moins on est riche, il y a moins de portes.
And the less you're rich, you are less.
Bon, donc il peut y avoir 10 portes de ce côté,
There are for example, 10 doors on one
10
side.
portes de ce côté,
On the other side, 10 doors.
5 portes de ce côté,
7 on the other side.
5 portes de ce côté.
7 on the other side.
Et les pauvres, il peut ne pas avoir que 6 portes.
And the poor people do have perhaps just 6 doors.
Bon, ces portes-là, chacune, il y a la manière de l'utiliser, l'utilisation des portes.
And all these doors, they have also the way of how to be used.
Par exemple, on va dire que ce n'est pas bon de rentrer par le côté sud de la tente.
For example, it
Il y a
says
des diables.
you shouldn't enter the door of the south.
C'est
There's
pas
a
bon.
devil.
Voilà. C'est pas bon de se coucher juste vers la tête des gens.
You should lie down or you shouldn't sleep.
Oui, c'est interdit.
Oh.
C'est pas interdit, mais on dit que c'est pas bon. Il y a des
It's not
diables.
forbidden, but it said it's not good.
Et voilà, il y a beaucoup de choses, beaucoup de croyances.
And there are a lot of
We
beliefs.
should come to an end. Okay, thank you so much for question and answers. Yeah, we now have a break of about 20 minutes and for the next panel. It's a panel 6 and I apologize. I know that Asia doesn't consist only of China, India and Sumatra. Asia is a huge continent with a rich variety of matriarchal people. But anyway, the days are already very full, and so I invited speakers of the most interesting and most important matriarchal societies of Asia. I would like to invite to the panel. The train. It's a joy to